Right, this is our 350 Royal Enfield race bike, and although I've done quite a few videos featuring this one, showing it going and discussing the engine and so on, very little's been said about the frame, and I get asked about it from time to time, so let's take a look at it. It's actually housed in a modified Royal Enfield Crusader 250 frame, which wasn't very difficult to modify, and they often get modified by people, especially for building trials bikes. But I did this slightly differently. I wanted a low centre of gravity for a start, although this sort of method could be used for an off-road bike as well. Obviously you'd have longer forks and longer shocks and so on. So the basic principles that I've used here could be used. Now, a lot of them, especially the off-road ones, on the Crusader frames, they tend to cut the bottom of those two mountings off to give clearance for the engine and the crankcase. But I wanted to keep these two, give it extra sort of strength and resistance to twisting and buckling, especially at the sort of speeds that this thing goes at and the heavy braking that it encounters. So it was a good idea to keep both of them. So what I did is I heated the front down tube with a gas torch until I could bend the front down tube forwards by, from memory, at this lower of the two mounting points, that went forwards by 3/4 of an inch. Now, I was a little bit sort of sceptical about doing it at first, but I think it was about 12 years ago and it's all held together. It's seen some terrible stresses and strains in its working career, and there's never been any problem with any cracks or handling issues from the frame, so I know that it's quite safe to do it. And another thing that often has to go on these, I've seen several people who've put 350 and 500 engines into Crusader frames. They chop out, you can probably just see it there, that little bracing tube underneath the main top tube to give room for the cylinder head to clear. Well, because I've got the engine mounted lower by hanging onto these, I can keep that top tube and I can still get the cylinder head on and off without any issues and without having to take the engine out of the frame. So you can do full maintenance and rebuild on the engine or top end of the engine without taking the engine out of the frame. At the back end, just in front of the swing arm pivot, I had to trim these plates back, and they're the same on both sides just to give room for the gearbox. I made the engine plates myself, and they're all, with the exception of the gearbox ones at the top there, they're all slightly different to any of the standard ones. I actually made templates of these because this bike has got a twin sister out there somewhere, built very soon after it. Well, this one's evolved over the years. I don't know what became of the other one. Alloy plates there as well. And lastly, behind the side panel, let's see if I just pop that off a minute. There we go. You can see the extra tubing. Well, also that one coming down to the top of the gearbox is an extra one. It's tied into this one, running fore and aft, and into the original main loop. That just gives it a little bit more strength. And back to the front here, you can't really see it too well, but I've also got a gusset plate in there where that down tube meets a small bracing tube going across under the tank, which was actually from a scrap Crusader frame which was badly bent, and I remember I used one of these and just cut it off. And well, I didn't weld it in, it was actually my brother, he does the welding, but it was welded in up there, and that just gives it a little bit more bracing and strength just below the headstock. Also, although this particular engine is a short stroke 350, it's a 500 engine de-stroked down to 350 with a big head on it. At the time that I built this bike, first of all, it was built as an ordinary 90mm stroke 350. It was possible to take the cylinder head off that without removing the engine as well. And I left room that if I wanted to, we could have even put a full stroke 500 big head engine in there. So there's plenty of room. Well, just. If you look at the big head in this one, it's very, very close to that down tube. But if this was on a longer stroke 500, the cylinder head would be quite a bit higher up. So everything fits just, but it all fits nicely and it all works very well. And maybe, just maybe, it might help somebody else to do likewise, because it really does make a fantastic little bike. Very lightweight, very good handling. We've actually got two-way damped forks. The stanchions and the internals there are not Royal Enfield. I've adapted the legs to accept what we've got. And we've also got, via these Allen screws here, adjustable preload on the springs. So I think that pretty much covers most of what was done to the rolling chassis. Of course, we've got alloy rims and stainless spokes. There's a lot of the time our engines get discussed quite frequently on various forums and at race meetings, but perhaps not so many people are aware of what the frame is or how it was modified to do the job. But it works really well and we're very pleased with it, and it's in its 12th year of racing now, so it's done us proud. Won quite a few races along the way, even come second in a championship last year. It's had a few thirds. I really doubt we'll ever have a win of a championship, because there is some pretty stiff competition out there, but this one usually manages to be in the top 3 over the line, and in wet weather it's usually the first, thanks to my brother's riding skills and the handling of this fantastic little bike.